में नहीं आए कि पीर के मांगने में पड़ गया। तो पीर ऐसा पीर वाली हिंदी खाए ना, गर्म करके भी उसको कुछ भी गर्म करके खा ले, तो खा देता है। मैं तुझ पर मानूंगी, तेरा गर्म करके मैं तेरे बाप को फोन करूँगी, पीछे तो तेरे बाप का फोन आएगा, देखते उसको गर्म करके नहीं खानी, मुझे नहीं खानी है उसको, दे जल्दी से। मैं फोन करूँगी तेरा, मैं भी तेरे पापा को फोन करती हूँ। दीदी आज में गर्म करके उसको कटोरी में डाल के दे, चावल भी डाल के दे, ये भी डाल के दे, खा ले। क्या राउंड करके टाइम होगा ना, इस टाइम नहीं करते क्या है। मैं भी तेरे बाप को फोन करती हूँ, अभी तेरे बाप को मिला तेरा भी टाइम होगा क्या।
Because everybody is on the move, and it is the basic human phenomena that we all are on the move, or ought to be on the move, or make an attempt to move. And this movement, with the individual movements connected to the one next, linked to the others, they become sort of a kind of a real crowd that takes you together, the togetherness. I mean, here it is not a kind of a mass which is sort of going with a kind of a given amount of similar, a kind of ideology. One is not talking about that. Individuals are put together with the movements, directions, different dimensions. So, this particular, what do you call it? We can see that it generates a kind of a, spacing from one to the next. It is true. I mean, I don't know which medium can permit you to be, where one can make this movement obvious. When I say Muslims or Mayas means, they are essentially the people that represents the simplicity of the human. They are extremely intended to be human in structure, and instead of human I use the word Muslim. So we had this Maya as a graduate, or Jesus becoming Christ. So one of these characters that you could see, that they are very steady on the ground, and in few pieces I was trying to sort of to make them thrown to the kind of space where they are very airborne. And it's such a movement that was sort of, dimensionally spread in space, evoking a sense of lightness. And the inseparability of these two characters, that Maya has Musi and the Musi has Maya. And or Musi itself is a Maya, or Maya also could be a Musi. So this concept was to be established by having them together on a kind of a platform, and with the same kind of a similar movement that was thrown into the space. And probably this is the first time these two characters are coming together to share a common space.
আশা ছিল, ভালোবাসা ছিল, আজ আশা নেই, ভালোবাসা নেই। আশা ছিল, ভালোবাসা ছিল, আজ আশা নেই, ভালোবাসা নেই। আজ তুমি কত দূরে, মিছে গেছো মরণে, নেই কাছে তবু আছো ব্যথা ভরা স্মরণে। আজ তুমি কত দূরে, মিছে গেছো মরণে, নেই কাছে তবু আছো ব্যথা ভরা স্মরণে। ফিরে চলে যায় যে সময় হয় একবার, তার যাওয়া আছে আশা নেই, আর আশা নেই, ভালোবাসা নেই। আশা ছিল, ভালোবাসা ছিল, আজ আশা নেই, ভালোবাসা নেই।
Because being a student of Kaalapravaham doesn't restrict you as one. On one side, you have the naturally happening celebrations in the village structures, which are very different culturally from the people who are coming from the different background as university students on one side. And within the university, you have people who are trained theatre people coming. The idea of coming to Shanti itself was like to do the painting. I mean, never thought of becoming a sculptor, or I never had the chance even to work on any material, especially any three-dimensional object even, prior to Shanti. So, not that I knew much about Shantiniketan other than, that it's a kind of a place where you are, taught, the classes are going down the tree, and so you naturally become one with the nature and a kind of a fantastic environment around. But then when I went there, the kind of teachers, especially in painting, were not the right kind. So why I say right kind? Because you come after certain amount of training, and you naturally want to sort of study under some great so-called masters.
Sculpture is not just physical, right? It's also making of an idea, the idea which we've been talking about towards this likeness of being. So again, there'll be the progression of that work, and then again we I think show more of his works and him, more of him, and on that, and then we have that, especially because through him I also want to of course emphasize Behj, because what has been more exciting has been him speaking about Ramkinkar Behj. So that's something very significant I think we should try and bring about.
Right before my eyes, there were two masters. And Shagiri Roy Chaudhary as a part of the faculty. And there was Ramkinkar, who lives in the campus, and he used to come and work, but not as part of the faculty. See, what happens is that Ramkinkar took to doing sculptures of a huge scale, but on the contrary, Shagiri used to be like, he would talk to you, he would sit under a tree having a cup of tea around, and then you can see him doing a little bit of modeling. So while in the middle of the adda, that you would really sort of come with a kind of a small piece and put it on the table. So it was Shagiri Roy Chaudhary who was, wanting me to be working with Ramkinkar. And no other teacher would let you, to get that space, in the sense that everybody wants their students to be naturally, in their own space, in their own style, in their own school. But here was someone who was absolutely happy when I told him that I would like to actually work more with Ramkinkar. And so I used to get Ramkinkar, and even Shagiri helped me to get Ramkinkar to my studio, sort of to build up a kind of a communication with him. And so it was more of a very, very personal friend, a kind of a brother, an elder brother like. I remember when he cast a sculpture, he wouldn't mind if I am also casting something on the side. And because that working on bronze is so expensive, so he would want me to finish his bronze. He would want me to do the patina, So in the process that I learned which are the chemicals needed for getting this kind of a particular green or brown or black or whatever. So most of my lessons, especially working with bronze, was coming from Shagiri. And since Ramkinkar never worked on bronze, all his works were like kind of either from clay to concrete or directly working with concrete. So his sculptures were lessons to us, Ramkinkar's. And Shagiri's approach was another lessons. So these two lessons, or all kinds of this learning process was so important, drawing various things from both these personalities. You see, Ramkinkar always spoke about the preparations. So I remember calling him to my studio just to sort of to show him a sculpture, but he was not here. He always says, but show me, where have you started, what was it? So he was keen on looking at those initial drawings, the kind of preparations. And then I understood that, you see, what is invisible. Sometimes I remember he looks at a complete sculpture or someone who completed a sculpture, and then he would take out a knife and start cutting it. And the person who took probably a month, to complete a sculpture, and here is someone coming and sort of cutting it, dissecting into a kind of a pieces, and then to see where he started the structure. It is very shocking, and at the same time it's a tremendous lesson for someone. And probably he was not keen on what you come up with, but what you are going through.
Working with bronze
forms come to you like naturally, or did you like try other medium and you thought, like did it come from the form which you were trying to create, or how did it like?
Yeah, it works both ways. Because of I work with bronze, my sculptures take a kind of a certain amount of, you know,
Yeah.
shapes, forms, because of knowing the fact that ultimately it's going to be in bronze. And another way, if you look at it, the sculptures are of this nature, then it can be done only in bronze. There's no other way. Because bronze is probably the most durable. And also it can really sort of take the whole volume in space, even with very minimum contact on the ground. No other material will give you that scope. And I never felt that one doesn't have to sort of to be modern by using modern materials. I mean, you can be a modern sculptor with very traditional methods, and if you have an individual approach and reflecting the time that you live in. Though it's a very traditional, ancient old medium, you are trying to sort of exploring it in a manner which is very, chosen by me as an individual. Like you have these tiny little figures, or individual casts of figures, are put together and then sort of go for a trip in space. And then you have this various, the whole mass of crowded people which are probably like on the ramp or on the liminal figures. They are multiples of different movements taken to a kind of a different height, and that's done in a different scale and very different method. And then I have sculptures like this which are done much larger than life size or even bigger than that. So I think that the whole understanding of philosophically, if you look at it, that the kind of understanding that we achieved by being with masters like Ramchandra was that the approach that you take is not to really sort of to come to a kind of extreme perfection, because it's a process of reaching out to that than arriving at that. I mean, that's what probably, we don't look at what's being done, but we really still have a lot to do. Or we are very much focusing on what we are working on. So the language, the kind of involvement, it becomes a kind of part of the process. And that's what probably the journey one, will take up. I think Shadbari took to what was there like he went into the reading of the song, and Frankinker went into the musical part of the sculpture.
রাইলো ইশারায় কইবি কথা গঠে মাঠে দেখিস যেন কেউ না জানে কেউ না বোঝে কেউ না শোনে কিছুদিন মনে মনে কিছুদিন মনে মনে ঘরের কোণে স্বামীর পীড়িত রাগ গোপনে কিছুদিন মনে মনে সারাই কইবি কথা গঠে মাঠে দেখিস যেন কেউ না জানে কেউ না বোঝে কেউ না শোনে কিছুদিন মনে মনে কিছুদিন মনে মনে ঘরের কোণে
Only a moment of reaching out to the home would naturally sort of make you to come back, which is of course something that people who are away from home for many years, and then with all the kind of ideas that you have in your memory, you go back. So you go back to your own memories and trying to tally with the reality, and then your movement obviously becomes sort of connected to the way the home is today exists. So with the way people are sort of moving from one place to the next, certain kind of structures also, it's not only in the thought process, but in the real space some structures come up. Physical space. Yeah, physically that. And these structures, how people really make it to their own. It is not something that they preconceive the structure. It's something that they improvise the structure, to the place where they land up. And I used to always look at making the basic cubicle a kind of an enclosure. I mean, so if you don't see the inside space, you see the contour of it from seeing from outside. So this cubical structure is more of a kind of not a living structure for them. But with all the kind of problems that they have, outside and inside, they call it a home. So in this, the whole structure is an ascending one, or even to be seen as a descending. Because integrating the very movement of this ascending and descending around a home. So you have the people coming up to a building, but it's not just a building. It's the space of a home. But reaching out to the home is one of the things that we all tend to be doing. Like we want to reach the house, to the home. But reaching there, you find that are you really wanted in that space? And here, it's depicted like kind of a closed home. It doesn't have a door, it doesn't have a window. It's unused. Sometimes it's not. It's something that you sort of see it as that you are not invited, you are not wanted, or you don't fit yourself to be in a space of that kind. There is certain amount of intuitive space that comes, certain amount of script being written on that stage. The dialogue naturally sort of get established, there while placing them. There is a kind of, not necessarily that, but the basic structure, the basic movement as a total structure is there in the mind, and that's the guiding force for me to decide who will go where and what will come next to what. So that's a kind of an understanding that we establish, and it's and ultimately all these understandings between the people, or with the people and myself, and then that really sort of take me to a kind of a platform of knowledge, knowing them, understanding it takes me to really a kind of a different platform of, you know, creating a kind of a space emotionally connected, and also sort of a kind of a space where you really are analytical about it, because the whole time that you are working on it, there is an analysis that goes on. But in a larger way, when you look at it after it's sort of being positioned and standing in space and taking a kind of a distancing yourself and then taking a look at your own sculpture, and then you understand where, you know, what it was meant to be, what it has taken or become to be, or where it can really sort of further take the, you know, take the movement, take these people further where it can go. So there is a kind of a space that really sort of, you know, taking off from the end of it. At the end of that crest of it, if you stand and look at it, a new space that really gets formed. I mean, that is the space again that I want to create, I want to get into. And that's probably one of the reasons I keep making ramps. Ramps which are never ending. Ramps which are really sort of gradually, you know, coming to a kind of a higher level. Gradually, or even the ramp that gives you scope where you can really sort of effortlessly reach to a kind of a height of unknown.
I remember as a child, you know, drawing with charcoal. Because charcoal is something that you don't have to buy. And with charcoal, you don't have very sophisticated, fantastic quality paper or anything. So you have newspaper that comes in. So with this charcoal and the newspaper, I mean, you could draw the kind of people who are coming. Before they are given anything, I would tell my mother, listen, don't give anything now. I will finish my drawing and then you can give it.